The Nairobi Expressway, a sleek 27-kilometer stretch of asphalt cutting through Kenya's capital, promised to ease traffic and modernize infrastructure. Built for 88 billion Kenyan shilling by a Chinese contractor, it was hailed as a game changer for commuters. But in July 2024, a tax dispute ripped the veil off a closely guarded secret. The Kenyatta family, one of Kenya's most powerful dynasties, had a financial stake in this flagship project. The revelation has sparked a firestorm of debate about elite profiteering and transparency in a nation where political influence often intersects with public business.
Thereby reducing the gridlock that people have experienced that has added to the cost of doing business in our country.
At the heart of the scandal is Edgeworth Properties Ltd, a company that supplied sand and leased land to KL Infrastructure Construction Company Ltd, the Chinese firm tasked with building the expressway. In 2022 alone, Edgeworth raked in over 1 billion Kenyan shilling in dividends, a staggering profit for a company tied to a single infrastructure project. But who owns Edgeworth? The answer points directly to the Kenyatta family. Documents reveal that Rose Ngote, the sole shareholder, acts as a nominee for Enke Investments, a firm owned by Mama Ngina Kenyatta, former First Lady, her son Mohoho Kenyatta, and Godison Trust Corporation. This intricate web of ownership has raised eyebrows as it places one of Kenya's most prominent families at the heart of a lucrative government-linked deal. The Nairobi Expressway, completed in 2022, was a public-private partnership meant to showcase Kenya's commitment to modern infrastructure. The project's glossy image, however, began to crack when the Kenya Revenue Authority targeted Edgeworth with the 249.2 million Kenyan shilling capital gains tax demand. The Kenya Revenue Authority investigation uncovered that Edgeworth's land leasing and sand supply deals were central to the expressway construction. The tax row culminated in a July 2024 ruling by the Tax Appeals Tribunal. This ruling didn't just settle a tax dispute, it confirmed Enke Investments as the true beneficiary behind Edgeworth, thrusting the Kenyatta family's role into the spotlight.
I think the problem that is there is that the taxpayer is taking time to be able to understand the processes. And that's one of the reasons driving us here, is that we realize that most of the taxpayers, one, they do not know how to deal with the disputes when they are served with an assessment by the commissioner, because the first port of call, like the Act says, we are a tribunal. So the first port of call for you is first to go to the same commissioner who issued you an assessment, raise an objection. So when he makes a decision is now when you come to the tribunal. So many times is that most of these taxpayers, one is that they don't have proper representation in terms of tax agents.
What makes this revelation particularly jarring is former President Uhuru Kenyatta's own words. In 2019, Uhuru championed a conflict of interest bill, publicly condemning public servants and their families profiting from government contracts. He called for transparency and accountability, urging leaders to avoid mixing personal gain with public duty. Yet, the Edgeworth deal linked to his family appears to contradict this stance. The Kenyatta family's involvement in a project of national significance raises questions about whether political elites are exploiting their influence to secure lucrative deals under the guise of public good.
Ni wangapi wanakubaliana na mimi? Haya. Na tukubaliane kwa sababu mmekuja hapa kama jamii moja, si ni kweli? Mutafute pia wazee wa Tana River, mutafute wazee wa Isiolo, wakae pamoja na nyinyi muweze kuleta suluhu ambayo itakuwa ya maana.
The public reaction has been swift and fierce. On platforms like X, Kenyans have voiced outrage, with many calling for greater scrutiny of how infrastructure projects are awarded and who benefits. The Expressway, once a symbol of progress, is now tainted by accusations of cronyism. Critics argue that the Kenyatta family involvements highlight a broader issue in Kenya: the concentration of wealth and power among a small elite, often at the expense of ordinary taxpayers. As the dust settles, the Nairobi Expressway scandal poses bigger questions for Kenya's future. Will this revelation lead to stronger oversight of public-private partnerships? Can the government rebuild trust in its infrastructure agenda? The Kenyatta family, long a fixture in Kenyan politics, now faces renewed scrutiny over their business empire. The tribunal's ruling may have closed one chapter of the tax row, but it has opened a Pandora's box of questions about power, privilege, and accountability in Kenya.
Our partnership with China is one that is mutually beneficial, that is based on win-win, and we are very grateful to the Chinese government, to the Chinese people, for the support that they continue to render, not only to our country, but to the rest of Africa.
So that's why we feel that we need to do more of these engagements. But I can assure you that from 2015, in terms of the confidence that has come in for the tribunal, we now have enhanced dispute for multinationals, because you only don't deal with just disputes for the local taxpayer, but even the multinationals that have tax disputes are now using the tribunal. And we have now seen in the last 2 years, there are more multinationals filing those disputes as a confidence in the tribunal. The tribunal exists to ensure that you don't pay 1 shilling more than you're supposed to pay, and you also don't pay 1 shilling less than you're supposed to pay. That's the whole essence. To ensure that you don't pay more tax than you ought to pay, and you should not pay less than you ought to pay. That's our function. We just ensure fairness in that tax pay.
The Nairobi Expressway still stands as a vital artery in the capital, but its legacy is now intertwined with this controversy. As Kenyans navigate the road ahead, both literally and figuratively, the call for transparency grows louder.
One of the challenges that we have been going through is about documentation, because you find out that at times you might be asked for documents by the KRA, and when you take them to them, then eventually maybe another officer comes in and he or she asks you for the same documents. And maybe in between, when you are giving the first officer, you wrote some documents. And now the tribunal have explained to us how we are supposed to keep the documents. And when we give them to the KRA, to the officer in the KRA, how we are supposed to.
Will the government act to ensure public projects serve the public, not just the elite? Only time will tell. But for now, the Kenyatta family's Expressway deal remains a stark reminder of the blurred lines between power and profit in Kenya. For Maisha TV, I'm William Juma.